Hi there! Good day everyone! I am Christine. So today you will join us to a new ride of learning which we will learn together an interesting and stirring topic.
Hey there, I'm Paul. Together with Christine, we would introduce you to a lesson that will surely help as you aspire to become an educator. At the end of this lesson, you are expected to demonstrate familiarity with the various characteristics of 21st century assessment and to reflect on the importance and application of 21st century assessment. Based on the Glossary of Education Reform, the term assessment refers to the wide variety of methods or tools that educators use to evaluate and measure the academic readiness, learning progress, skill acquisition, or the educational needs of the students. While assessments are often equated with traditional tests, educators use a diverse array of assessment tools and methods to increase students' learning and development. In this lesson, we would explore the various characteristics of a 21st century assessment that are essential guides for the preparation of assessment activities. The 8 characteristics of 21st century assessment are the following: responsive, flexible, integrated, informative, multiple methods, communicated, technically sound, and systematic.
In order to direct teachers to cater and meet the needs of 21st century learners, there are 8 characteristics of 21st century assessment that were suggested by different authors in order to ensure that the learners are being assessed towards the skills and demands of 21st century. To further elaborate these characteristics, we have firstly, responsive. In assessing the students, the learner's visible performance work must generate the data that curriculum and instruction are responsive to their needs. This characteristics tells teachers that the learner's visible performance work as a result of assessment must produce data that inform curriculum and instruction. It is also important to take note that in these characteristics, giving feedbacks are essential, where responsive assessment is all about reacting quickly and positively. Example, Teacher Anna discussed literature and some literary works in her class. To know if the class understood the lesson, she conducted a formative assessment. In a sheet of paper, she asked her students to answer the question, how does literature mirror your life? Second, we have the flexible. Lesson design, curriculum, and assessment requires flexibility. It must also be adaptable to student settings. 21st century approaches are more versatile, wherein in these characteristics emphasizes that assessment must be adaptable and flexible to student settings rather than the identical approach that works in traditional assessment. So we have here an example. In Principles of Teaching 1 class of Teacher Joy, she allowed her students to have a survey about their multiple intelligence, and after that she grouped them based on their intelligences and let them make a creative presentation. Next in line is integrated. Assessment must also be incorporated into day-to-day practice rather than as add-ons at the ends of instruction or during a single specified week of the school calendar. In these characteristics, assessments must integrate into some realistic and day-to-day practice rather than giving students an instruction in just a specified or preferred week. We need to remember that we must identify alternative strategies that consider the students' choices. Just like for example, Teacher Marco assesses his students from time to time, for he believes that assessment is not only given at the end. He also gives his students a formative assessment rather than just giving them a summative assessment. Next is informative. Teachers must ensure that the desired 21st century goals and objectives are clearly stated and explicitly taught. In these characteristics, teacher review is important where it informs students about their status. So for the example, Teacher Joy is always making sure to set her goals and objectives before she started her class session. And order for students to be aware and be guided for their achievements.
Next in line, we have multiple methods. Multiple methods, an assessment continuum that includes a spectrum of strategies, is the norm. When we talk about norm, it refers to something that is usual, typical, or standard. Through relevant tasks, projects, and performances, students are able to demonstrate knowledge and skills. Be mindful that in multiple methods, authentic and performance-based assessments are emphasized. For example, Teacher Diane is aware that her students have different multiple intelligences. She makes sure that she uses multiple methods of assessment, such as having daily journal entries, portfolios, and some performance-based tasks. Communication of assessment data is clear and transparent for all stakeholders. Results of the assessment must be posted to the database, which needs to be available and comprehensible at all levels. In this characteristic, we need to remember that communicating and informing the students about the result is important, as it gives motivation and eagerness to the students to learn more, because if the students' achievements are recognized, it would definitely inspire them. Here's an example. Sir Francis let his students keep track of their progress by returning their papers or evaluation sheet. He also makes sure that he submits the grade of his students on time for their parents to be aware of their child's achievement. The next characteristic is technically sound. Adjustments and accommodations are made in the assessment process to meet the students' need and fairness. This characteristic highlights that assessment must be valid and reliable. When we talk about being valid, it means it measures what it intends to measure. And when we speak of being reliable, it means it deals with consistency, preciseness, and technicality. Example, Teacher Cassandra makes sure that her assessments are valid, reliable, and supports comparison since her students have different intelligences, beliefs, gender, and socioeconomic groups. The last characteristic is systematic. 21st century assessment is part of a comprehensive and well-aligned assessment system that is balanced and inclusive of all students, constituents, and stakeholders, and designed to support improvement at all levels. Bear in mind that it is systematic because there is a process. A thorough process and a thorough planning is involved. Here's an example. Changes are inevitable, so Ma'am Joanna makes sure that she's able to identify the needs of her students and the community. With that, she will be able to develop her students into globally competitive individuals. After learning the various characteristics of 21st century assessment, here are some innovative games that showcase those characteristics.
Pass the ball game. This game is pretty sure familiar with every student since it is done as a fun activity during classes utilized by teachers. The game is accompanied by music. While the music is playing, students should pass the ball around the class. And when the music stops, the student with the ball should answer the question coming from their teacher. This game is very convenient, easy, and everyone has the chance to play.
Board rotation. In this game, the class must be divided into different groups. The groups will be assigned to each of the boards that is being set up in the room. Each board has one topic or question. After each group writes an answer, they rotate to the next board and write the response below the answer of the previous group. Each group would go around the room until all the groups have covered all the boards. Those are just a few of the innovative games that feature the characteristics of 21st century assessment. Now, let's proceed to the mind mapping of the lesson.
The mind map viewed in the screen shows the outline and important details to take note in the 8 characteristics of 21st century assessment. This gives us an overview or brief summarization about the topic in order to cite the key concept and for us to easily understand the 8 characteristics. As was stated, we need to remember in responsive assessment that feedbacks are essential. Flexible with these characteristics, assessment must be adaptable. We also need to bear in mind that integrated assessment emphasizes that assessments must be incorporated into a day-to-day practice. In informative assessment, objectives and goals are clearly stated and explicitly taught. respectively. Multiple methods are all about authentic and performance-based assessment, and assessments result in tangible data must be communicated. We also need to take note that in technically sound, assessment must be reliable and valid. Lastly, systematic pertains to have a thorough process, and assessment must be balanced and inclusive. To have a better understanding on how to integrate the characteristics of 21st century assessment, let's meet an educator. We interviewed someone who is a professional in the field of teaching, and we asked him with regards to what are his teaching strategies in handling 21st century learners and how does he integrate the various characteristics of 21st century assessment. Want to know his insights? Let's meet
Good
him.
day everyone, I am Sir Carl Angelo T. Cancer, a Filipino teacher of Dole Philippine School. I am answering these two questions about 21st century assessment. And the first question is, what is my strategy in handling 21st century learners? I believe that 21st century education provide or promotes opportunity to develop the skills of the student. And now we are in this generation where technology offers this kind of development. As a teacher, innovation is my greatest challenge. And now we are facing this new normal setup of learning due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and students are now interacting virtually. As a teacher of this new normal setup, one of my strategy is utilizing technology with strengthening interaction with the students. This would help to develop the adaptability skills of the learners, which one of the skills of the 21st century. Yes, indeed, all of us is adjusting for this setup, both teachers and students. But if we were able to embrace this change and to embrace this strategy, we will be able to develop some methodologies to attain some skills, some 21st century skills of the learners, essential skills for this setup. Next, the second question is, how do I integrate various characteristics of 21st century assessment? So in this new normal setup, it's so challenging to integrate these characteristics of assessment or assessment itself. I said that adaptability is one of the key skills that we need to develop, both teachers and students. So for me, we can integrate these characteristics, these various characteristics by a systematic way. We should identify the strengths and weaknesses of every student, because this new normal setup, we have to identify many strengths and weaknesses of the students. And I believe that improvements and development will be attained by process. To sum up everything, so all of us, both teachers and students, should open in innovation, development, and embrace change.
Reflection of the topic. To become an effective 21st century teacher, we need to be aware of the various characteristics of 21st century assessment and integrate it in our teaching. Applying these characteristics allow us to craft assessments that could effectively measure, evaluate, and document the learning progress of our students.
Indeed, the 8 characteristics of 21st century assessment are necessary in the field of education. It serves as an essential guide for the preparation of assessment activities. As an educator, we need to be equipped with knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values to meet the challenges and demands of 21st century education. Once again, I am Christine, telling you that learning is a lifelong process. By learning, you will teach, and by teaching, you will learn. Good day!